Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. Today we're here with part 25 of our F1 2021 MyTeam Career mode here for the Canadian Grand Prix. Last time out in Spain we were able to get our first win of Season 2 here after having that win taken away from us in Portimao with the engine failure. So very glad to get that redemption last time out in Spain. You can see here just a quick look at the standings heading into this round. Lando Norris leads away by 4 points over Lewis Hamilton, and then Bottas and Ricciardo also pretty close behind as well, so very close at the front of the standings. And you can just see here, so far 4 races down, we've had 4 different winners with Lando, Ricciardo, Hamilton and myself picking up a race win each so far this season. So as we head into Canada, could we be getting a 5th winner in 5 races? That'll be interesting to see. But you can see, having a look at some upgrades heading into the round, we got an aero upgrade, we got some lightweight rims brought in as well to help with some tyre wear, and unfortunately the fuel efficiency upgrade wasn't able to come in time, so we've repurchased that, and that'll be coming in before the French Grand Prix next time out. Now having a look at the R&D chart here, you can see the performance comparison. We've actually jumped up to the 2nd quickest team on the grid on paper, that is. You can see we're basically equal with Mercedes and McLaren for 1st, and Red Bull, they're only just behind. They're not too far, so I'd say it's sort of a 4-way fight at the front of the field at the moment. You can see Ferrari have made some good gains as well, and they're closing in on this battle. So yeah, very soon we could be seeing a 5-team fight towards the front of the grid. This grid is very close to each other. It's very compact. Yeah, if you make one mistake in qualifying, you can drop right to the back of the field. So yeah, very competitive this season. I am enjoying it a lot. There's a lot of battles happening, and it's sort of what you like to see in these sort of career modes. As you get further and further in, you want to see the teams getting closer and closer to each other. So yeah, I think as the season progresses and maybe some teams start hitting the ceiling of what they're able to achieve, it's only going to get closer. So yeah, it's going to be interesting as we move on to qualifying now. It's going to be completely dry for both this and the race. There's no rain forecasted, or at least there's a very low percentage chance of rain forecasted. I guess there's always that slight chance, but yeah, there shouldn't be any rain for qualifying or for the race as we head out for our first qualifying lap here. And I've decided, considering our car is so high up on that performance comparison, I know I said everyone's close, but I'm going to sort of do a little bit of a risk here and just go for only 1 lap in Q1 and hopefully make it through and save a set of soft tyres for Q2 or Q3 if we happen to need them. You can see as we head into the final chicane now, it's been a pretty good lap. I do enjoy this track, and I do think I've got some good pace around here. As we set our one and only lap, it's actually the fastest lap out of everyone so far. Of course, some people still need to set a lap, but as we cut towards the results for Q1, we do have provisional pole, and actually Lewis Hamilton there in P8, one of the championship protagonists, has a 5-place grid penalty, and that's actually for illegal blocking in Q1 there. So very interesting, and who knows, with how close this season is, come season's end, that could be the difference between the championship or not for Lewis Hamilton. But you can see we're going on a set of mediums for the start of Q2 here, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be a 2-stop race unless we can make these mediums work. And it hasn't been the cleanest lap, but it certainly hasn't been a very poor lap as we come across the line. And it's enough for P6, so we are well amongst all the medium runners here. We've got Ricciardo ahead of us, and you can see up the highest medium runners, Perez in 3rd. But everyone went out on a set of softs to go at the end, so we're going to have to do another lap. You can see we're already down in P8 as we begin our 2nd lap here in Q2, so hopefully we can stay in the top 10 and I can back out of the lap, but we're going to continue and push on just in case other guys set times. You can see as we come to the end of Q2, we're in 11th, so we have to set the lap time to get through to Q3, and you can see it's enough for 3rd place there, just behind our teammate Carlos Sainz in 2nd, and Perez in the Red Bull actually sets for provisional pole. So I told you there in the comparison there of the performance chart that Red Bull was slightly behind the Mercedes, McLaren and ourselves, but it's so close really that they're still easily within a chance of setting a good time. You can see in Q3. We go provisional pole after everyone sets their first lap time, so very confidence boosting there as we have a look at the chart. And we have a bit of a car issue there, a bit of unbody damage that's getting fixed, but it'll be fixed in time for our second run. And as we go out, everyone's starting to do their second run now. We are going to be the last car to cross the line. Everyone's actually finishing their second laps now while we're only beginning. But you can see it hasn't been a good start for us, but as everyone finishes their lap, and people are improving, but no one's improving enough to get pole position off of us. You can see we actually damaged the front wing there, and by the time we get to the sector 3, we're already 1.7 seconds down, so we're going to have to back out of the lap. But that's it. No one's been able to set a time quick enough to dethrone us from that first Q3 lap. So it is going to be our first ever pole position here in Canada. And unfortunately for Sainz, I don't know why, but he was half a second off of us in that session there, and he's going to be starting in, I was going to say P9, but he's going to be ahead of Daniel Ricciardo because he also got a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking there in Q3. So a lot happening in that qualifying session, a lot of penalties. I haven't seen that before. A lot of drivers got penalties. Both Alfa Romeos also got penalties for blocking and for contact. So yeah, certainly a strange one, but we're going to take what we can get, and we're going to move on to the race.
Bonjour! It's time once again to go racing here in Montreal, the second largest French-speaking city in the world, and home since 1978 to the Canadian Grand Prix. We'll be seeing top speeds of around 210 miles an hour here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 2/3 of the lap taken at full throttle. High-speed chicanes spell potential danger, especially at the infamous Wall of Champions. And watch out for overtaking into the hairpin and the final chicane. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. And it's fantastic to have you with us here today, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you, so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Benjamin lines up on pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Perez, Max Verstappen and Gasly, Hamilton, Sainz, Vettel and Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo and Raikkonen, Ocon, Stroll, Nicholas Latifi and George Russell, Mick Schumacher, Mazepin, Giovinazzi and Nobuharu Matsushita. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So here we are on the grid for the Canadian Grand Prix, lining up for the first time on pole position as we get underway for the formation lap. So it's going to be interesting to see how our first race start from the very front of the pack goes. And this is also our very first time sort of controlling the field on the formation lap here. So making sure to warm up the tyres, make sure not to let the pressure get to us here as we have the current championship leader starting in second place right behind us. We've also got the reigning world champion Valtteri Bottas starting right behind us. So yeah, certainly a lot of pressure being applied on this first race start, and hopefully we can stay in the lead as we head out of turn 1 as we go to 5 red lights, and we are underway for the Canadian Grand Prix here. It's a pretty decent getaway, but we get a bit of wheel spin in the later stages, and as we go into turn 1, Valtteri Bottas is actually on our outside through turn 2. He's on our inside, and he's just going to have the grip to pull ahead there and back onto the racing line and take the lead of the race away from us. So you can see we've actually pulled a bit of a gap to Lando behind. As I say that, we go through the chicane and Lando's now right behind us, but we had a very good start. It was just Bottas seemed to have an amazing start compared to everyone around us, so I guess that's sort of what makes the difference in the end in a race. A race start, as we know, in F1 is very, very important, so that can be what you need to get a championship win. That's what he did last time out, but now as we head through in towards Sector 3, we're going to try and stay as close as we possibly can behind the Finn, and we also want to remember we want to keep this gap over Lando Norris because he is the championship leader. If we can outscore him, that means we are closing down the lead to the championship lead. And of course, I don't know how, but we are somehow, I feel, in a position to challenge for the championship. But as we head on to the end of lap 3 here into the final chicane, we're going side by side with Valtteri Bottas, and we do retake the lead of the race. And actually, Bottas doesn't have DRS, and Lando Norris does. So Lando is going to come up alongside Bottas as we head into turn 1 and 2. And Lando is now up into P2 just behind us, so we've got a bit of a three-way fight here for the lead and for all the podium positions, I guess. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Are we going to be able to pull away, or is the DRS going to be too powerful around here? Of course, there are 3 DRS zones around this track, and it's a very fast, flat-out track, Canada, here, except for sort of this section here and the hairpin towards the end of the lap. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a struggle to pull away from the cars behind, especially since both Norris and Bottas have a Mercedes engine as well. We're not going to have any sort of advantage over them in a straight line. So as we head into the hairpin now, it's lap 4, so DRS obviously is enabled just like it was last lap. Nothing's happened yet, so as we head down the back straight under the bridge, this is where the DRS zone is, and we're going to have a look at Lando Norris because he is very close to us. Is he going to have a look into the final chicane? Yes, he is. He's going to go down the inside, but he's actually going to back out of it beforehand, and he's going to be right on us now for the main straight, where once again there is another DRS zone here, and he's going to try and pull out alongside us just like he did to Bottas last time. He's going to send it to the inside of turn 1. We're going to go side by side. We're on the inside. He's got the outside for turn 2 now. This is going to allow him to sort of round off the corner and get a bit of a better run. You can see he does pull ahead there before we head into the chicane, so it looks like we're going to find ourselves stuck in a battle here, but very, very thrilling to see. We are right on the back of the McLaren now as we head into Sector 2. We're going to try and set up the run down this straight. There's DRS here as well, and you can see we are right behind Norris, as actually we do get DRS down the straight. We're going to try and pull to the outside. Are we going to be able to make the move stick here? We are. We pull ahead of Lando Norris, but you can see that actually backs him up to the cars behind. So we're going to have to look behind now as Bottas and Perez actually battle here, and now actually Pierre Gasly's somehow got himself into this. He's trying to go around the outside of Sergio Perez, and he has done. He's got himself up into P4, so Gasly in the AlphaTauri outdoing both Red Bulls at the moment, and he's right in the front fight. If we have to have a look at the front again, because once again Lando Norris is attacking us into the final chicane. We're going to go side by side, and he backs out, and this is going to set up his run down the main straight to make a move on us. But look how close this field is, as I've been saying already a couple times this video. It's so compact that everyone is just sort of in one big train throughout the whole race, and especially at a track like this where there are so many DRS zones, positions are going to be changing almost every single lap as we head into the chicane now. You can see Lando is staying right behind us. The dirty air not really taking a massive effect. There's definitely an effect, but you can just see how close everyone's able to stay with these cars, and you can see Pierre Gasly in P4. He's actually keeping with this pack, and he doesn't look like he's under attack whatsoever from the cars behind. Although actually having a look again, Lando sweeps around our outside there through the chicane, but we are able to go around the outside and get back ahead, and now this has helped Pierre Gasly get up alongside Valtteri Bottas to make a move for P3. He's going to go around the outside of the hairpin like he did to Perez last time out. Is he able to do the same sort of thing and get himself up into a podium position here as we head onto the straight? He does. He is actually still side by side. Bottas comes back obviously with that Mercedes engine. He's got a bit more power compared to the AlphaTauri with the Honda. The Honda, one of the slower engines in Season 2 here, but Gasly does pull ahead into the final chicane there, and he now takes P3, and this has actually allowed Norris and myself to make a bit of a gap. You can see we have to go defensive, and Norris actually sends it around the outside of turn 1 that time, so Norris definitely adamant on trying to get this position here. We now have the outside line. Are we able to make ourselves ahead. Not quite. Norris is ahead into the chicane, and he now takes the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix here on lap 7, and this has allowed Gasly to get right behind us. And then there's actually quite a big gap to the cars behind as they all battle away. Bottas fighting away with Verstappen and Perez there, so yeah, it's sort of become a bit of a three-way battle now, and somehow Pierre Gasly has been able to make himself a part of it as we head through the quick left chicane here. We actually run a little bit wide there under braking. This has allowed Gasly to get all over the back of us, so is he going to be able to make a move on us next as we head into the hairpin? We are still right behind the McLaren, so we should hopefully be able to make a move with the DRS. We will have DRS because we were within a second in the detection zone, but are we going to be close enough to make a move? Gasly's dropped back a little bit there as we head down the back straight. We're not going to be able close enough to make a move this time as we sit in the slipstream using a bit of ERS towards the end of the straight as we're going to prepare a move onto the main straight here. You can see getting a really good run out of the final corner there. We're going to be alongside Lando Norris as we head on to lap number 8 now down the inside. Norris is going to try and hold the outside. You can see cutting to off-board camera. We are once again side by side. We're going to be going side by side here almost every lap by the looks of it, as this time we do get completely ahead before the chicane, and so this time we lead through sector 1 here. And actually Bottas, you can see on the top left there, Bottas has dropped into 6th place. Both Red Bulls have gotten ahead of him there, so after a really awesome start for Valtteri Bottas, unfortunately for him, he's dropped right back, but we're going to have to focus on ourselves here. You can see Norris is right behind us as we pit in on lap number 8. Norris continues on. You can see Gasly's in and Verstappen is also in for his first stop. We are on a 2-stop strategy here. We're going to be pitting onto the mediums now, and then onto another set of mediums at the end of the race. That's so long as no safety cars or anything come in and play around with our strategy. But you can see a nice quick stop there, and we do get back out ahead of Pierre Gasly and Max Verstappen as we head back onto the track into this really awkward re-entry point. You can see it's actually going to be really close between ourselves and Mazepin there, and we do just get ahead of the Haas, and that could be crucial for our undercut here. We're going to have to see. Actually, I don't know. I'm not too sure around this track if the undercut is the better way to go or not, or if it's maybe like Portimao where we saw a couple times that the overcut was actually a bit better. But you can see as we head on to the end of lap 9 now and on to lap number 10, we've actually made a massive gap over Lando Norris behind, and he's still in the pit lane now, only exiting now. You can see there he is, but Pierre Gasly's also been able to undercut Lando Norris, but Gasly now into 2nd place here in the Canadian Grand Prix, and Verstappen battling away with Norris there for 3rd place, and Verstappen does get ahead in the Red Bull. So yeah, the undercut by just 1 lap there is absolutely huge as Norris drops back to P4, and we've got a bit of a lead now. But you can see Gasly, he's just within DRS as we head down this straight, and he is now right on the back of us as we head into the chicane. So is Pierre Gasly going to be able to make a move? We're obviously not going to have DRS. We're not quite close enough to Matsushita to get that as we just jump another lap forward here onto lap 11 through the hairpin. Gasly is still right behind us. Norris has been able to get himself back ahead of Max Verstappen, but as we head down the back straight now, Gasly does have DRS, and he's actually right behind us in the slipstream, and he pulls out really early. He's alongside us, and he's able to get back ahead and onto the racing line before the final chicane. And obviously you only get DRS once. There's only 1 detection point, so you get the DRS for that back straight and the main straight, even if you are ahead. So Gasly's able to stay ahead on the main straight, and as we head on to lap 12, Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri, just out of nowhere, he didn't even qualify that well. Just suddenly in this race, his speed has been absolutely outstanding, and he's been able to work his way up into the lead of the Grand Prix now. So could we see the AlphaTauri get their first win in this career mode here in Season 2 as we try and stay as close as we possibly can? As obviously, as much as I'd love to see Gasly get a win, I want to get the win and try and close in on the championship lead. You can see going through the order, Vettel here in 6th, and Bottas has actually dropped right down to 7th, and Lewis is up in 5th. So the Mercedes has sort of swapped positions here. You can see Sainz is still sitting in P8 there. He's only been able... Actually, no, he hasn't been. He has started in 8th. He qualified in 9th, but Ricciardo here, we're looking at, is in 10th after his 5-place grid penalty. So he's worked his way back into the points, and now he's right behind Sergio Perez in the Red Bull, who's actually dropped a lot of spots. So you can see everyone being able to get the undercut on him has really hurt his position. He was battling with Max Verstappen for P4 before the pit stop phase, and now as we head down the back straight, Ricciardo's going to get ahead and into P9 as Perez drops down to P10. Charles Leclerc in the other Ferrari is right behind him, and Perez won't have DRS down here, so Leclerc's going to be all over the back of him. He's going to pull alongside into turn 1, and Perez is going to drop down to P11 now as Leclerc is easily able to sweep around the outside there and up into P10. So yeah, a lot of battles happening around the track as we head just a little bit back here, back onto lap 12. You can see we make a massive mistake and run really wide there, and that's allowed Gasly to pull away, and it's also allowed Lando Norris to get right on the back of us here as we head into the hairpin. He's going to come up alongside. I try and defend a little bit there, but Lando gets down the inside. We're going to run it nice and wide there and try and square off the corner to get a good run down the straight, because we're not going to have DRS. We were outside of a second of Gasly in the detection zone, and Lando had not quite past us yet, so we're going to have no DRS here. You can see not able to get the speed to overtake Lando down the back straight. I try and get a good run. You can see we get a really good run out of the last corner. We get slightly alongside, but with the DRS there, Lando's easily able to pull back ahead, so I'm going to get in the slipstream and last second dive down to the inside of turn 1. Once again on lap 13, going to go side by side with Lando Norris through turn 2. You can see Max Verstappen sitting right behind us here as we still go side by side into the chicane. I just decided to sort of back out and let Lando go there and try and set up another run there out of that chicane, but we're just going to have to sit and be patient behind Lando Norris as we head through now another chicane. There's a lot of chicanes around this track. I've come to realise it's a lot of straights and chicanes, but you can see we do have DRS here. We're going to have to wait and sit behind as we head through the right hand, running a little bit wide there. That's going to allow Max Verstappen to get a bit of a better run on us, and you can see Lando's been able to pull away. But look at Pierre Gasly. He's pulled 2.5 seconds to us, about 2 seconds ahead of Lando. So Gasly could very well run away with the lead of this race if we continue to battle as we head down the back straight. We are going to have DRS this time, and Lando won't, so we're going to close up heaps down here with heaps of slipstream. Are we going to go for a move? We're not quite going to be close enough to do that. We're going to sit in nice and close under the rear wing of that McLaren and get a nice run out of the last corner. Once again with the DRS open, we're going to pull to the right-hand side this time. So we're going to have the outside of turn 1. But it will give us the inside for turn 2 as Lando only just gives us the room on track there, very close to making a bit of contact, and that could have ended in disaster for us as we go side by side into the chicane. And actually Lando holds it side by side there, so whereas we backed out of it last time, Lando tried to hold the position, but we do pull ahead either way, and now we take second place. And you can see that battle there has allowed Pierre Gasly to pull 3.1 second lead over us. So if we continue this battle, and Gasly is absolutely just going to run away with this race, so now I have to sort of decide, if Lando passes, do I just want to sort of sit behind and see if we can maybe close in on the AlphaTauri ahead as we come into lap 21. Gasly's actually come into the pit lane, as has Max Verstappen, but you can see Lando and myself have stayed out, so's Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas and Sainz. So yeah, it was just Verstappen and Gasly from the very front here that have come into the pit lane as we continue on for another lap. So does Lando Norris. This time Lewis Hamilton comes into the pit lane, so Bottas will go for another lap, obviously, as they don't want to double stack, and Sainz continuing on as well. So very spread out these pit stops, as we're not even meant to come in at the end of this lap. So yeah, very interesting to see, because normally in the game, pit stops would be split over 2 laps, where you have one set of drivers pit on, say, lap 21, and then everyone else would pit on lap 22, as we actually come to lap 23 here, and Norris is ahead of us into the hairpin, and we're going to try and sit behind, but he will have DRS here as we make a little bit of wheel contact. But as I was just saying, we're not even coming in this lap. As you can see, heading into the final chicane, Lando is in this lap. So we're going for a very long run here, and it's a bit worrying, because we saw how powerful the undercut was over 1 lap. Let alone now, where we've sort of done 3 or 4 laps more than the guys that pit on lap 1. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. And obviously Sainz as well won't be pitting until next lap now, as we come in this time around for our pit stop. And just about getting that stopped in time. I was really pushing to make sure we lose as little time as possible, just because I'm worried about this undercut. As you can see, Pierre Gasly already coming past us here as we come in, and actually they've got a front wing out. We're going to have a front wing change. This was not planned. This is the exact same as last time out in Canada, where we had an unplanned front wing change, and Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes, one of the championship protagonists, with an engine failure here. He's going to be out of the Canadian Grand Prix, and Yuki Tsunoda almost hitting the wall there as he tries to take avoiding action. So everything kicking off in this race now as we've lost a bunch of time with that front wing change. You can see we come out just behind Tsunoda. We're going to come out side by side with Lance Stroll and the Aston Martin. We are racing these guys. These guys have made their pit stops as we head into the chicane. We're going to go around Lance Stroll. We'll just get a wheel in the grass there. But we are now in P11. And this is a legitimate P11 because Sainz is the only car left to make a pit stop. And he was within a second of us by the time we made our stop. And we lost a good 5 seconds with the front wing change. So we are in 11th place. We are gone from fighting for an actual podium, for possibly even a win maybe in the latter stages of the race, to now having to try and push to get back inside the points in just a blink of an eye. So everything has sort of turned on its head here. You can see we set a purple second sector as I'm just pushing for dear life to try and make these positions happen. We've only got just over 10 laps remaining in this Grand Prix. The race has absolutely flown by at this point. As we head down the back straight, we do have DRS on Yuki Tsunoda. We're not going to be quite close enough to make a move into the chicane, but just like we did with the McLaren, we're going to set up a nice exit out of the final corner, enable DRS, we're going to pull to the left-hand side there, and we just get ahead of the AlphaTauri before we get to the yellow flag there, which is very crucial for this overtake there. We're not going to have to hand the position back as we head through turn 2. We are back into P10 now, and we're going to have to chase down a 2-second gap on Sergio Perez in the Red Bull and sort of the rest of that pack. They're all sort of battling away with each other. Sainz has come out in, I believe, P6 as we head into the chicane. You can see already closing in a little bit of gap because we just have so much pace at this point as we head down this little back straight section. But you can see cutting to the end of lap 26, we set the fastest lap of the race there by quite a bit because we are just absolutely flying. The car felt so alive. I guess maybe we did have a little bit of front wing damage that unfortunately sometimes just doesn't show in the game as we come to the end of lap 27, once again setting the fastest lap. So yeah, that's a bit of a shame that we got that. But now that we have a fixed front wing, we are absolutely flying. We are right on the back of this pack now in lap 28 as we head through the chicane. We're going to actually look how much we close in on the Red Bull here. We just have so much pace in hand, and we're going to go for a surprise overtake there into the left hand. And Perez slowed up heaps, and you can see looking ahead, Carlos Sainz sweeps around Valtteri Bottas to move himself up into P5. So Bottas still struggling there, the lone Mercedes now. But here now, we have Charles Leclerc versus Daniel Ricciardo. And this is one reason why I love this track so much. One overtake by someone can lead into a massive knock-on effect of overtakes as we try and benefit from this battle here and get ahead of Charles Leclerc. We're now going to go side by side with Daniel Ricciardo through the hairpin. We're going to have to tuck in behind. You can see Sergio Perez also getting ahead of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari there as we head down the straight. We're going to have DRS. Daniel will also have DRS here off of Valtteri Bottas up ahead, but we're going to go side by side into the final chicane, and we're going to outbrake him into the chicane. We sweep around the outside and get ahead, and you can see that's slowed Daniel right down, and now Perez is going to come and make an overtake on Daniel Ricciardo. He got overtaken by both these cars in half a lap earlier on in the race, and now in half a lap he's overtaken the both of them once again, and you can see that that's led to Ricciardo and Leclerc battling now. As I was just saying before, you know, perfect example there. One battle leads into another battle and leads into this massive knock-on effect around this track. So yeah, very, very cool, this track for that sort of those sort of battles. It's certainly very good for racing, I think, at least in the F1 game, as we look at Pierre Gasly into the hairpin. He's got a massive lead, and he spins the rears, and he spun around at the hairpin. Max Verstappen takes the lead there, and Gasly from the lead, absolutely no pressure on him whatsoever. He had a good 2.5, 3 second gap over Verstappen, and it was staying there, and he spun up the rears on worn mediums. You can see, looking from his perspective here, down the second gear, he just lights them up and spins around there. Just a huge mistake there. And he's won a race before, but unfortunately this time looks like he maybe succumbed to the pressure a little bit. As you can see, I'm not too sure why he had to sit there and wait, but it's caused the safety car to come out now on lap 30 of 35. We're going to go on to lap 31, so we're going to have only 5 laps left of this race, and I don't know how many laps are going to be left by the time the safety cars come in. So we're going to have a very short sprint to the finish here. We're in P6, and yeah, this whole race sort of been thrown on its head. Everything's changed for left and right this whole race. You can see, we can take a little look at the order. Max Verstappen now leads the Canadian Grand Prix after that spin from Pierre Gasly, and Lando Norris remains in P2, ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who's doing very well there, the man who's returned to Ferrari for this season, to be up in P3, ahead of Carlos Sainz, who somehow ended up in P4. He spent most of this race in the bottom half of the top 10, but in P4 now under safety car. Before we get going again, you can see Valtteri Bottas in P5, just ahead of us in P6. I want this safety car to end. I need as many laps as possible to try and make as many overtakes as possible before the end of the race. You can see Sergio Perez in the Red Bull just behind us in P7, ahead of Daniel Ricciardo down in P8. Remember, Ricciardo at one point was fighting for the championship. He was leading the championship at some point, and now he's down in P8, unfortunately for him, and Leclerc in P9. And Yuki Tsunoda, funnily enough, Pierre Gasly spinning out of the lead there, has gotten his teammate Yuki Tsunoda up into the points. And speaking of Gasly, here he is down in P14, and I'd say with only 3 laps left to go of this race, it's going to be a pretty safe assumption that he won't be getting any points in the Canadian Grand Prix here this weekend, which is a huge shame for the Frenchman. It would have been really cool to see him win the race. But we're going to cut to the end of the safety car now. At the end of lap 32, we're going to get released onto lap 33. We're going to close right in on Bottas. We're going to pull alongside on a perfectly timed green flag there. Allows us to just sweep past heading into turn 1. We're going to have to try and battle him through turn 2 here. But because we've caught him off just sort of by surprise there on the safety car restart, we are ahead by the time we exit turn 2. And now we're in P5 and we're going to have to chase down the next car ahead, which happens to be our teammate Carlos Sainz for P4. You can see he's right on the back of Sebastian Vettel as well, so hopefully he can try and make a move there. But by the end of lap 34 here, down the main straight, massive tank slapper out of the hairpin. Sainz hasn't been able to make a move on Vettel as we head down the back straight, and Vettel pulls off to the side. And it's an engine failure for the Ferrari with just over 1 lap to go. Vettel looking for his first podium on his return to Ferrari, and he's not going to finish the race here with an engine failure. Huge shame there for the German. I'm sure on his return to the team for this season, he would have been hoping to be rid of the luck that he had when he was there in his first stint at the team, but unfortunately it looks like it's followed him back, and he just has not been having a lot of luck there this season. But it's the final lap of the Grand Prix now. We've got about just over half a lap to go, and we're now going to have to battle our teammate Carlos Sainz for the final spot on the podium. Who would have thought after this whole race there's been so much action, everything happening everywhere, and now with half a lap to go, we are battling our teammate on a 1 versus 1 battle for the final spot on the podium, as we are right in behind. We are going to be close enough for DRS this time round. You can see up ahead Max Verstappen and Lando Norris battling away for the lead, but we're getting right in behind. A little bit of lockup as I try and get as close as possible down the straight. You can see looking ahead, Verstappen has a pretty nice gap on Lando. Lando does have DRS, but I don't think he'll be close enough to get him down this back straight, but we are close enough to Carlos Sainz up ahead down the back straight. We're going to pull to the inside here of our teammate into the final chicane. We do get ahead of Carlos Sainz for the 3rd place in the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen wins the Canadian Grand Prix ahead of Lando Norris, and it's going to be ourselves to finish in P3.
Yes, 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 we're on the podium. Good job this weekend. Great drive. Thank you.
That's it then for another magnificent Canadian Grand Prix, and they've hung on to take a sublime victory here today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be proud of the victory they secured here.
So here we are with the results for the Canadian Grand Prix. It's Max Verstappen to take the win here ahead of Lando Norris. Max becomes the 5th winner in 5 races here in Season 2. As ourselves to finish in P3, just ahead of our teammate Carlos Sainz in that crazy last lap battle that we had there with our teammate Sergio Perez there, and the other Red Bull finishes in P5, ahead of Valtteri Bottas in P6. Ricciardo ends up in P7, Leclerc in P8. Yuki Tsunoda and the other AlphaTauri was able to salvage some points there for that team to finish in P9, and Lance Stroll finishing in P10, the last points paying position there for Aston Martin. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Lando Norris extends his lead to 17 points now, ahead of Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas, who are equal on points now, and then they're 5 points ahead of Hamilton, who's then 5 points ahead of Ricciardo. And then it's only a small gap to us, so 30 points off the championship lead for ourselves now, which is actually pretty good. This battle could become a 5 or 6 car race by the end of the season. You can see Perez in 7th ahead of our teammate Carlos Sainz, who was able to score some decent points here. He's only 12 points off of us at the moment, so it's all very, very close between the cars. You can see there's a massive gap after Sainz down to the Ferraris next, but the top 8, it's only 40 points. 40 points is a big gap, but the points between everyone is very small, so anything can happen at this stage in the championship. You can see McLaren regains the lead of the constructors there, with Hamilton having that DNF, so this weekend could have actually been very, very costly for Mercedes come the end of the season. You can see Mercedes there 12 points off of McLaren now in 2nd place. We're sitting in 4th, not too far off of Red Bull. We've got a big gap to Ferrari behind, but our main battle this season looks like it's going to be with Red Bull, and maybe, it could be a top 4 Constructors fight battle. We're 45 points off McLaren, which in the Constructors Championship is a lot less points than it is in the Drivers' Championship, but yeah, at the moment, to be up in P4 as it is, very, very cool, considering it's only Season 2, so we've come a long way since the start of Season 1 where we were struggling to get points. So yeah, it's very, very, very good to see the progress that we've been able to make so far, and hopefully we can keep making that progress further on in the career. But you can see now, having a look here at Team Acclaim and Driver Acclaim, we move up to level 14. Sainz stays in level 15, and Team Acclaim goes up to level 19, so we were very close to unlocking that 4th and final sponsor there to bring in a little bit more revenue. You can see we've got 8 million in the bank after the weekend. So having a look at some activities, we're going to do a podium celebration party there. That's a pretty obvious one. Gets a bunch of morale for all of the departments. We're going to do some sponsor advertisement there to get a bit more team acclaim. And we're also going to do some simulator training there for Sainz to help improve his experience a bit. You can see we also just sneak in a power team building there to get even more morale for the powertrain. So that's looking very good. And the only upgrade we're going to be purchasing here is a DRS upgrade there. So that'll make our DRS a little bit more effective down the straights. And that should be coming in before the French Grand Prix. Now, just having a little look here at the sort of driver stats for Sainz, you can see he's 99 rated, so he's still very good, but his focus is very low there, 67 focus, which is not ideal. I'm not too sure. I think this is just something on the game side. A lot of the drivers, I noticed, they just sort of lose focus no matter how well they do. So hopefully we can do some activities between weekends to try and sort of raise that for Sainz there. It's a bit of a shame that's dropping, because other than that, all of his stats are very, very good. To be 99 rated, he's one of the best drivers in the driver market at the moment. So yeah, I guess we just have to sort of try and make sure we support Sainz as much as possible, and we could very well find ourselves fighting for the Constructors' Championship and maybe even Drivers' Championships towards the end of the season. But that is everything for us to look at. That is all the admin work to be done here in this episode before we move to the French Grand Prix in the next one. So if you did enjoy this episode, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to me, see more content like it, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.